If you watched the movie where we talked about compatibility, you saw some issues of converting files between older and newer formats. In this movie, we'll see how we can solve compatibility problems or find compatibility problems even before we get to the Save As dialog box. So in this file, we have some of these conditional formatting icons, and we also have the smart art here with some names of products in them. So let's do this. Let's go to the File menu and go to the Info section if you're not there already. And let's look at this Prepare for Sharing area. So this is before sharing the file. It tells us that it contains various things that we might not want to share. Some document properties that we see over here on the right. There are hidden rows in this document. And also there are some issues with that smart art diagram would not be picked up very easily by someone who uses a screen reader, someone who has problems seeing the document. So what I want to show you over here is what we could do to check for issues. So click Check for Issues, and we have these three different options. Let's start with the one on bottom, Check Compatibility. And when we go in here, this shows us some familiar messages. And over here where it says Select Versions to Show, when you click that, this shows you that it's comparing with which older versions. Maybe you don't care about people who are going to be using this workbook in 2003, you only want 2007. So now this only shows you what's happening for someone who's going to view this with 2007. Just minor loss of fidelity. And that usually means things like color shifts, like the green might shift to a slightly different green. Now if we come back here and we choose just the 97 to 2003 and not the 2007, now we see we have significant loss of functionality and a whole bunch of warnings in there. So you could really have this whichever way you want, turn on and turn off. Thing is, let's say you fix something and then you come back to this dialog box, and then you fix something else, you come back to this dialog box. Well, that's kind of tedious. So here's a really great feature. Down in the lower left corner, click where it says Copy to New Sheet. And now this puts a new worksheet down at the bottom of the workbook with all of that information. And you can go through here and you might find it a lot easier. Let me just hold the Control key and roll the wheel to scroll out a little bit. So you can see all of this information here is probably easier than going to the dialog box over and over again. So do you notice that some of the cells here are links? And that just makes it easier for us to find what's going on. So if you click one of them, it selects those particular cells that are affected. You notice here a lot of cells are selected because of this big green title at the top. So that's affecting a lot of the cells below it. Well, let's go back to the File tab, back to Info if you need to, back to Check for Issues. And this time let's choose the top option, Inspect Document. And this is going to tell us that we need to save the file first, so that's fine, let's do that. And now we could choose, we can select or deselect any of these options that we want to check for. I'm going to leave them all selected, and let's click Inspect. And now this tells us, oh, okay, we have this problem, but we don't have that problem. So there's some document properties and personal information. Let me move this out of the way. So you can see there's some properties and things in there. So let's click Remove All. And you notice that those properties, most of them, not all of them, have been removed. Now they're hidden rows and columns. I'll click Remove All. And now those are gone. So now we know, and we can see by those nice blue check marks, that this workbook is pretty clean. We don't have any weird things in there that we don't want getting out. So let's click Close. And one more time, let's go back to Check for Issues. And let's look at Check Accessibility. And again, this is for the benefit of people who may have physical difficulty dealing with a computer or dealing with Excel. So click that. And over here, it gives us this pane of some warnings. Now it tells us missing alt text in a diagram. If you click this diagram here, you notice that it selects the smart art. And here's what's going on. Someone who's using a screen reader, the screen reader is going to come along and say, oh, diagram. And that really isn't going to be very useful for the person using the screen reader. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'll go over here to Format Object. And we've got all these different options here. I'm going to go to the bottom, Alt Text. Let me move this dialog box here. And I'll click over here where it says Title, and I'll call this Key Products. And then here for the description, I'm going to use the names that are in here. Now, you can't really copy and paste because the dialog box is open, so I'll just type them. So this way, the screen reader will come along, it'll read the names of these particular olive varieties, and it'll pick them up so it won't just be a blank diagram. And I'll click Close. The other warning that it's giving us is default sheet names. And these are simply the default sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. So then we could just double click, this hasn't changed, and we can call this inventory. I'll just call it January to June and press enter. So if you take the time to go through some of these options before saving a file and sending it along, you'll find that you'll save some headaches later on.